Hello, Internet. It is I, the Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. Today, we're going to be talking about Elemental. So, as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons. So, let's get to it. Pros. This is from Pixar. This is Pixar's latest flick. And Pixar, do I even need to explain Pixar at all? You know what Pixar is. They have like a 30-year, almost near 30-year legacy, and majority of their movies have done really well. Majority of their movies are considered classics at this point. I mean, Toy Story, Bugs Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Wally, Up, Toy Story 3, Inside Out, Coco. Like, they've made like a ton of bangers without question. A lot of these movies were my childhood, particularly Finding Nemo and The Incredibles. Like, a lot of these movies are just timeless. I mean, sure, maybe visually some of them don't hold up all that great because how CGI was back then compared to now. We've advanced a lot, but in terms of storytelling and characters, humor, it's just A tier stuff. Mostly, they've made some not so great movies and some okay-ish movies, but yeah, Pixar, they're a pretty historic name when it comes to animation. Very notable name. So, yeah. I just say Pixar as a brand is a pro, but it's also a con at the same time. And I will go over like the con side of it because the con side is a lot more recent. Because like when I talk about the pro side, I'm talking about all the stuff from the past. Okay, like that was past Pixar. Modern Pixar, it's not the same, and I will go into detail about that later. Believe me, but um, so yeah, the Pixar name. I'm just gonna label that as a pro. Another pro is that the reviews for this movie are pretty solid. Definitely. I was kind of concerned about the reviews because like when they first came out they were like in the 60s and I was like, "Oh no." That is no good. Like that worried me that we were gonna have like another Pixar was gonna have another real dud on their hands. But apparently, reviews have improved to 75%, which is a lot more, you know, appealing. I mean, sure, it's nowhere near the top of the Pixar tier list because a lot of their hits, their greatest hits are like in the high 90s. This is like the mid 70s, so but it's still solid, for most movies. And its audience score is at 91%, which I say is pretty darn solid. And its cinema score is an A. So word of mouth is not a problem here. So yeah, word of mouth, critic score, audience score, cinema score, all good. So that's a pro. Another pro is that Disney, they have been marketing this movie quite a bit. They've been maybe not as hard as like some of their movies in the past, but you know, they tried. They have tried marketing this movie, trying to push it enough. And I mean, there's that, I guess. I guess I could label it as a pro that it has a visible marketing campaign. Um Another pro is that, well, in terms of direct competition later on, I mean the only movie that this movie has to really deal with is like Ruby Gilman, and that's not expected to be a huge hit. So I mean, there's that in terms of like future competition. I mean, there's not a whole lot of family movies opening in like this summer anyway. I mean, after Ruby Gilman, like what do we have? Haunted Mansion, Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, like, and I think that's it. That's literally it. So there won't be a lot of competition and direct competition in the future. So I'd label that as a pro, definitely. Uh, I think that's it with pros. Cons. Pixar, let's go back to them. Okay. So I mentioned all like their past movies, all their hits. I didn't mention all their flops though. I mean, sure, like Cars 2, like Cars is an okay movie. Cars 2 is a movie I haven't seen. Like I've heard like bad things, but now people are like, "No, this movie isn't that bad." So maybe part of me wants to watch Cars 2 now. I don't think I would enjoy it very much, but at least like Cars and Cars 2, they made money, which is something you can't say about Good Dinosaur. So Good Dinosaur, that movie went through a rough production, and eventually, like it was supposed to come out in 2014, didn't happen. It came out like in late 2015, the same year as Inside Out. That was the first time like two Pixar movies opened the same year, and that turned out to be a very unwise decision because while Inside Out did fantastic, The Good Dinosaur did terrible. It only made 123 million domestically and made like a little over 300 million worldwide on a budget of like 187 million. That is dreadful. That is a money loser right there. So that was Pixar's first big flop. But then after that, things got better. Finding Dory made $1 billion. Cars 3 didn't do very good, but that movie, like the Cars series, is fueled by toy sales and merchandise sales. So this movie, it was going to make a profit before it even came out. So yeah, Cars 3 was going to be fine. Then you got Coco, which did very well. Incredibles 2 and Toy Story 4 both made $1 billion each, with Incredibles 2 being the biggest Pixar movie ever, the biggest animated movie ever in the States. Um, but after Toy Story 4, things took the worst turn imaginable. Because after Toy Story 4, we have Onward, a movie that honestly, when it was coming out, like I had a bad feeling about it when it came to its performance because it didn't really feel like an event for me. It felt like Soul was the real event for 2020 when it came to Pixar movies, and Onward felt more like a side project. That's how I felt about it. Oh, but little did I know the type of shit Onward had to deal with when it came out. Because Onward, it opened pretty poorly, the same level as Good Dinosaur, so that's not good. But then obviously COVID was becoming like a real looming threat in the States. And then like the next weekend it hit hard. Everything got shut down, was canceled. It was a horrible time. And movie theaters just died like as soon as COVID became like a real hard thing in states. And Onward suffered greatly because of it. So obviously Onward was a failure, but it was mostly a failure because of things that were completely out of its control. So I'm gonna give it a pass. Like I'm gonna give Soul, Luca, and Turning Red a pass because they were dumped on Disney Plus because it was obvious Disney didn't value Pixar on the same level as their Disney Animation, Walt Disney Animation. All their movies got theatrical releases, which just felt kind of wrong to me. Like either have them all be on Disney Plus or give them all theatrical releases. Don't just pick and choose what gets a theatrical release and what gets yeeted straight to Disney Plus. But yeah, Soul, Luca, Turning Red all got dumped to Disney Plus. But then last year, you had Lightyear, Pixar's first theatrical movie that didn't have to deal with any bullshit since Toy Story 4. And I felt like this was gonna be it. This was gonna be their comeback, their big theatrical comeback. And oh my god, that did not happen at all. In fact, the movie was an absolute disaster financially. It opened like $50 million, which is pathetic for a Pixar movie, especially a movie that had like the Toy Story, movie from like the Toy Story brand. Okay, like the Toy Story brand, Toy Story started Pixar. Like without Toy Story, Pixar wouldn't be. I don't even think Pixar would exist the way they are. So yeah, Toy Story is their main franchise, and to see like Lightyear open like that poorly was pretty shocking. And what was even more shocking is its legs were abysmal. It only made like 118 million domestically and over 200 million worldwide. It did worse than the fucking Good Dinosaur, which is something I never would have thought in a million years. And there's a lot of reasons why Lightyear failed. I mean, there's so many. There was, the fact that some people were peeved that Tim Allen wasn't voicing Buzz, that it was Chris Evans. The fact that, with all those Pixar movies like Soul, Luca, Turning Red, going to Disney Plus may have devalued Pixar and made people go, maybe I'll just watch this on Disney Plus. I don't need to see this in theaters. There's also the fact that, the whole gay kiss. I might as well mention that because that caused such a stir, even though it was all for nothing, really. I think it was really dumb, but it still caused a stir. And yeah, just so many things went wrong for Lightyear, and now Elemental's coming out. So yeah, the last few years for Pixar have been pretty damn awful. And with Lightyear's failure, that has made me greatly concerned about Pixar's future. So, yeah. So, recent Pixar, last few years, that's a con by itself. Like, that does not bode well for this movie at all. So, yeah, I might as well mention, like, Disney as a whole, Disney animation as a whole, like, it has been struggling for years. Like, I mean, like for Pixar movies and Disney animated movies, I honestly can't tell the difference between them anymore. Is that bad? I don't. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who thinks that. Like you could literally call Strange World a Pixar movie and Lightyear a Disney movie. I don't think anyone would tell the difference. Like, and not to mention all like the Disney animation movies. None of them have done particularly well. The best of the bunch is Encanto. Even then, didn't do great at all. But there was Encanto, Ray and the Last Dragon, and then Strange World. Jesus Christ, was not like, ugh. That movie pretty much explains itself. That movie's like historic failure. So yeah, Disney, Pixar as a whole been doing bad recently. So that's a con, big con. Another con is that this movie, honestly, I never thought it was gonna do that great because it just didn't look exciting to me. Like none of the trailers wowed me. I just thought it looked kind of boring, honestly. And there's been like no real hype at all, like no real excitement. This isn't like back in the day where when a Pixar movie was coming out, people were like, "Oh my god, a new Pixar movie! I gotta watch that." Like that those days are gone at this point. Um, and Elemental just didn't. It just never really got off the ground in terms of like the hype. I mean, they've been playing movies like Mario and Spider Verse, Across the Spider Verse had way more hype surrounding them than this ever did. And granted, those two movies were fan fueled movies. Mario obviously based off the Mario brand, Across the Spider Verse, Spider Man. This is an original movie, but still, Pixar is a brand within themselves. Like Pixar movies were events. They were legitimate events. People paid attention to them. So you think the Pixar crowd would be like hyped up for another movie, but that's just not the case. That hype just never materialized. I mean, most of the talk around this movie, like originally, was that how Water Guy looked way too much like Osmosis Jones, which like he kind of does. I mean, look at him. Like you can you can definitely see like the similarities, and it's just the movie felt just real like too safe for its own good. And yeah, so I'm just saying lack of hype, severe lack of hype. I'm labeling that as a con. Definitely. Another con is there's a lot of competition out there. The Flash is easily the big movie of the weekend. Not to mention, Across the Spider Verse is still making money. It still has a pulse, and obviously that's gonna hurt this movie because both are animated movies, both are geared more towards family audiences. Although Across the Spider Verse, I don't know if I consider that like a. I feel like that leans more towards adults than families. I mean, kids could watch Across the Spider Verse, but it's definitely a more mature animated movie than most. But yeah, that movie is gonna hurt Elemental because Spider Verse has been doing fantastic. It's literally the only positive to come out of like the whole month so far. Like really, there's like one of two positives of the whole summer. That's Across the Spider Verse and Guardians 3. That's it. And this movie is not gonna join him in the win column at all. So yeah, just dealing with competition, mainly across the Spider Verse. That's gonna be a problem. So that's a con. Another con. Thursday previews. Ooh, boy, 2.4 million. That is rough. That does not look great at all. I mean, for comparison's sake, Lightyear. Might as well compare it to that. That was the last Pixar movie that came out in theaters. Well, really, just in general. That had a Thursday preview of 5.2 million, so that's less than half. And that movie only opened with 50 million, so oh no. And I can't compare this to Mario because Mario didn't have previews, and not only that, it opened on a Wednesday, so comparing it to that is kind of pointless. Um, but I guess there's Across the Spider Verse. I know it's a sequel, but just for comparison, say like how much hype was surrounding Spider Verse in comparison to Elemental, Spider Verse 17.3 million preview number versus 2.4. So yeet. I'm trying. I'm trying to think of like a really strong comparison, but most of the animated movies that have come out in recent years have been sequels. Like there's haven't been a whole lot of original stuff. I mean, I guess there's DC League of Super Pets. Like there's that. I guess let's compare it to that. Okay. Thursday preview was 2.2. Oh no. And that movie only opened with 23 million, so that's a horrible sign. So, ugh. I mean, there's stuff I could compare to like the past, like the Inside Out, which was an original Pixar movie. But that had way more hype surrounding it because people actually cared about Pixar movies back then. And out of 3.7 preview number, but that was like different. Preview numbers were a lot less front loaded than they are now. Okay. So obviously, it's not going to reach Inside Out numbers. It's not going to reach 90 million. That seems ridiculous. So it would be like an insanely high multiplier to do that. But yeah, like preview wise, it's bad, man. I wasn't expecting amazing numbers, but I expected a lot more than 2.4 million. That's just a straight up disaster. So that's definitely a con. That's definitely an omen. That's definitely a sign of foreboding doom for this movie. So that's a con. Um, I guess I guess I could also mention that I guess this goes along with the fact that Pixar, like Disney animated movies, have been struggling. It kind of feels like family audiences have like shunned Disney movies. It definitely feels like that because most of the successful family movies that have come out the last few years, they weren't made from Disney. I mean, last year you had Sonic 2, you had The Bad Guys, you had Minions 2, you had Puss in Boots 2, which had a slow start but was able to recover, find an audience, and thrive. And then this year, I mean, you got Mario, which is going to be the biggest movie of the year because no other movie is probably is likely going to top it. And then earlier this month, Across the Spider Verse, the second biggest opening of the year. it is doing gangbusters at the box office. It already shot past its predecessor in like 9 days. It's already made like over 250 million domestic and counting. But yeah, when it comes to like Disney animated movies, it feels like family audiences are just shunning Disney. They're just like blanking them, just ignoring them. So if that's the case, then oh boy, like Wish and Elio, like for next year, like Wish in like November, Elio in March, those movies are going to be in some serious, serious trouble. But we'll talk about them when they eventually come out. But yeah, it feels like family audiences are kind of just like ignoring Disney, and that's going to be a massive problem. So, and it already is a massive problem. So, I'm gonna label that as a con. And I think that's it. So, opening weekend. Oh, let's compare to other Pixar movies, shall we? Okay. So, opening weekends. The biggest is Incredibles 2. Obviously, I can't compare it to sequels. That's silly. So, the biggest original Pixar movie is Inside Out. That opened with 90 million. Then after that, Incredibles, Finding Nemo, Up, Brave, Wally, Monsters Inc., Cars, Coco, Ratatouille, Good Dinosaur, Onward, Toy Story. Well, Bugs Life that had a well, Bugs Life and Toy Story 2 they had like specialty runs before they went wide, but Toy Story 2 was like 57 and Bugs Life I believe was like 29, I think. Let me check. No, 33. My bad. Obviously, Elemental wishes it made Ratatouille numbers. Okay. It wishes it did. It's not going to reach that at all. I don't even think it's going to reach Onward numbers, honestly. I mean, Onward, might as well look at that very quickly in more detail. I know it's not a great comparison because the movie had to deal with a lot of bullshit, but that had a preview number of 2 million, and that was in March. Kids were in school, at least in physical school, before they all everything went virtual. But yeah, that was like 2 million in March. Like 2.4 million in summer when kids are out of school. That is pathetic. Like that is prime time. That should be prime time for family movies because kids are out of school. They don't have to, they have like no schoolwork to deal with. They can just do whatever for like the next few months. And you'd think of family movies would do better because of that, but in the case of Elemental, that's not the case. So I'm gonna say it's gonna open with 30 to 35 million, which is just bleak as all hell, and it's gonna have a final total, I guess, over 100 million. I think I'd be shocked if it didn't make 100 million, but I'm gonna say 100 million plus, which is absolutely atrocious considering the movie cost like 200 million. So that's another L for Pixar, and just makes me think how much longer can they go on like this? Like, because people have already gotten fired at Pixar. Hell, the director of Lightyear got fired from Pixar recently. And I imagine if this movie fails, you're going to be seeing a lot more layoffs at Pixar, no doubt about it. And they're probably going to want to push Toy Story 5 and it out the door like real soon to save them pretty much. Because at this point in time, they are in a death spiral, if you ask me. So yeah, Elemental's looking like a huge bomb, and I can't wait to discuss its corpse when I make my June recap. So yeah, that's it for Elemental. Now one more movie to talk about, the big one, the big one. I use air quotes, big one, being The Flash. There's gonna be a whole lot to discuss regarding that movie. So oh, I forgot to like a 4 day for like Juneteenth. I forgot to mention Father's Day and Juneteenth. It's not gonna matter. The movie's a dud already. Like nothing's gonna save it at this point. um, but yeah, might as well 4 day. I'm just gonna go with 35 plus million. and then the 100 million total. I'm sticking with that. But okay, now, ugh, I lost my train of thought. Damn it! But now that's it. So yeah, next up will be Flash, and that'll be it for the weekend. So that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. You want to check out more videos like this? Got playlists on the homepage, all previous um prediction videos I've made this year. Want to watch and the prediction videos I made this year and past years about my you want to watch my Lightyear prediction video and see how wrong I was regarding that movie. That's in like the 2022 playlist, so you want to find it, go through that. And so yeah, there's that. So you want to watch any of them? Go right ahead. There's also the canceled series where I go over all the all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. Elemental. I talked about it one time. I talked about episode 126 when it got its release date, and that was like I believe that was before Lightyear came out. Was it? I'm positive it was. Yeah, was it? Was it? Yes, it was. Before Lightyear came out. If this happened like after Lightyear came out, I would have been a lot more a lot more worried. But that was before Lightyear came out. That was before I knew better. That's before I knew what would happen. So yeah, I talked about that one time. So if you want to watch that episode or any other ones I've done, I made 194 up to this point. I had made two cancel episodes earlier this week regarding like all the Disney release date changes because of the writer's strike. So you want to watch those two episodes, 193 and 194. You want to watch any of them from beginning to now? I highly encourage you to do that. So go do it. And there's also box office recaps where I go over the box office results for any particular month. June recap will come out mid-July around the same time as Dead Reckoning Part 1. It's going to be real interesting to talk about Elemental because I feel like it's oof, it's uh I mean, at least I won't be so shocked like what happened with Lightyear. Like Lightyear's failure I did not see coming. Elementals I did see coming, so it'll be less of a surprise, but there's going to be a lot to discuss regarding that movie's fate. So stay tuned for that. But if you want to watch any of the past recap videos I made on the channel, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.